Welcome back to another video on my channel. Today I am sharing with you guys everything I've read for the month of February. I did this sort of video last month for everything I read in January, and now this is the second installment of said series, and I'm hoping to do this for every month of this year, 2023. So if you're interested in these books that I read, just keep on watching. Okay, so first I'm actually going to plug my own book. I'm so sorry, but it literally just came out. This is Cursed Images by yours truly, by Cassie Van Gundy. It's Cursed Images, Scary Stories from a Child of the Internet. And this is a short story collection that it revolves around like technology or toys from the 2000s. That's when I grew up. I was born in 95. I don't really remember the 90s, but I do remember the 2000s. So this is, again, Scary Stories. Just kind of like childhood horror meets like nostalgia. Like I started this right after the pandemic, really, and I don't know. Some of that nostalgia that I got from the pandemic and from all that kind of channeled into this book. So yeah, I love the cover. One of my old coworkers from way back in the day, actually, I paid her to do this. She's a very talented fantasy artist, and I will put her Instagram right here in case you're interested in her artwork. But yeah, I really wanted to have this really retro vibe, sinister but also girly, because I wanted this to feel like all the sorts of scary stories we'd have at sleepovers back in the day, basically in a book. So if you're interested in that, it is up on Amazon. I'm going to put the link to it in the description. Due to a technical error on my part, I wanted this to drop on the 10th of March. That was like going to be the release date, and so the ebooks are set to launch on the 10th of March. So because this is my first time listing on Amazon as an independent author, I read that it could take 72 hours to put a paperback live, so I went ahead and submitted it thinking it would take 3 days, and it did not take 3 days. So if you see the paperback listing, technically it's out. I haven't mentioned this on my Instagram channel, so only my YouTube girlies are going to see this. So technically, if you want to buy a paperback now, I think you should be able to. But if you want to wait for the 10th for the original release, that's fine too. I just have to clarify that. I have a little bit of egg on my face, but anyway, either way, if you want to pick up a copy, you can. Again, it's Cursed Images, and there's me. That's my face. This is my author's copy. The real book does not have this band. But yeah, I would really, really appreciate it if you wanted to support me in this way, especially since this is my first independent project on Amazon. So yeah, sorry. I had to plug. I'm really proud of this. I'm sorry. We're going to get into the legit, well, my book's legit too, but we're going to get into the legit things that I read this month. So yes. First up, we have, now this one took me a minute to get through just because the topic itself isn't necessarily, I guess it is kind of heavy. This book called Meme Wars, and let me read the subtext to you. Meme Wars, the untold story of the online battles upending democracy in America. So this is the cover. I saw this at the bookstore and instantly had to get it. If you've been watching me for a while, you know that actually my master's thesis was very similar to this. I wrote about the role of memes in public diplomacy, and although I really wanted to talk about domestic politics in the U.S., my master's program, because it's international relations, I wasn't able to focus on that specifically, so I mostly focused on ways that nation states themselves could monopolize memes to push their own agendas. I did mention Obama and Trump as presidents that really circulated social media, but this more so goes into the domestic politics of the United States, primarily Trump's election and the insurrection that happened once Biden was meant to take office. So it is like a brief history of all the sorts of micro conversations happening online and the way that different groups of the alt-right and fascist movements manipulated the general audience or tried to manipulate their way into mainstream politics. It goes over certain figureheads, certain popularized figureheads. It also just kind of talks about some kind of like if you're sensitive to like racist and anti-Semitic and really homophobic and just some pretty intolerant views, this book might be a hard read. I know it was hard for me at times to get through, but I think it's very informative, and I think it's something that a lot of people should know more about and should be more aware, especially since like misinformation online is so heavily prevalent. I think this book does a good job of dissecting that and analyzing American politics and like why we got to where we did. And yeah, this person, Joan Donovan, I actually quoted them in my thesis a couple times. I specifically remember their names, and they are a Harvard researcher, or they're one of the prominent voices of analyzing like memes and media politics and stuff over at Harvard. So I really recommend this book if you have the time to read it. It's pretty thick, but I think it's pretty comprehensive. It's pretty comprehensive if you're new into this idea, right? You will get everything you basically need to know. Yeah, interesting reads, and it kind of legitimizes memes as a way of rapid communication that can do harm just as much as it can do good. In my thesis, I talked about how memes were used and shared as like counter protest and like for ways of going around censorship, and I was trying to use it as a positive light. This is primarily showing the evil that can be done with said memes. So if you want to read my thesis, it's actually on my LinkedIn profile, which, I mean, if you want, you can read it, that's fine. But also, if you want to read if you want to read this and then read my thesis as like a couple material, go ahead. If you just want to read this, go ahead. If you just want to read my thesis, that's fine too. But yeah, I think it's still on my LinkedIn profile, but I don't know where else it necessarily would be. I think I made a video on it like a few years ago, but I don't know if that video is any good. So let me not recommend that because I don't remember what I said in that video. But anyway, this is the first book I read this month. So yes. Okay. The second book I read this month, actually, I'm going to try to put it on screen because I don't have a physical copy with me. This book is called To Eat Their Own, and it's more of like a novella. It's very short. I'm mentioning this because the author themselves actually gave this to me for free to read, and I am super, super appreciative of it. I had it in like a PDF copy version, so it took me forever to like actually have time to sit down and get to this because I had to read it on my laptop as opposed to like my Kindle or whatever. So I feel bad that I've been like, I haven't touched this in so long. But yeah, I also made all these reviews too, in some way, shape, or form. I also have on my Goodreads account. But this book, or this novella, was very entertaining. I just remember that there's times where I like the end. I like the twist at the end. And I'm super thankful to be getting this for free. And I really want to promote other indie people. And I'm going to try to include more independent authors in these videos too, as much as I can. But this is a tale of cannibalism. And it feels very much like a very action-packed chase type thing with the protagonist trying to escape said cannibals. If you're into that, I think this will work very well for you. I've discovered that I don't think reading about cannibalism is my thing as much as I do listen to true crime, and sometimes they talk about it very surface level. It's different when you're reading it yourself and reading descriptions, and I think my imagination is a little bit more hyperactive than I'd like to admit. So some of that I just didn't jive with, but regardless, I think I should feature it on here. If you're interested in that, please go check them out. I will also be putting their Instagram here too, so you can go ahead and follow them as well. So I was kind of like on a nonfiction kick this month. I apologize if you're not into nonfiction. I don't know if you'll like this or not. But I picked up this book called Kindred. It's Kindred Neanderthal, Life, Love, Death, and Art. And I was at the bookstore. I think Douglas was looking for nonfiction books in like the coding section or like the science section. So I happen to be in the sciences too. And I have always been interested in like evolution and anthropology and This just really caught my eye and drew me in because who doesn't want to learn about like our long distant cousins, Neanderthals? Especially since like I think recently a lot of ancestry DNA tests have revealed that people do still have like Neanderthal DNA in them to varying degrees or to like small percentages wise. But this was super good. It kind of had the opposite effect as the Meme Wars book, whereas this was hard to get through at times just because it does read very much like a textbook. Which again, like this is a well-established scientist. She's a science author. So yeah, she's an archaeologist and an author. So this is somebody who really knows her stuff and is clearly very passionate about Neanderthals. And I did learn so much from this book. I really did. But there's some parts in the middle that are kind of dry, or I feel like they were over descriptive in terms. There's I think it was the chapter was probably the most difficult in my brain was there was a lot of explanations on tools, and while it's important to understand like what distinctions there are and what the tools reflect about like what they were doing, there's some times where it was just kind of I think overkill a little bit, which is like an editing thing. But if you're interested in tools and want to know every description about early tools, then you'll love this. But they also have some cool stuff that I learned in this book. So what I found super interesting was that Neanderthals, I had this rep for being like basically your stereotypical cavemen kind of thing with the loincloth, and like they have this media stereotype of not being very intelligent and just kind of being big and bulky and blah blah blah. And even though they are like physically stockier, I think, than Homo sapiens were, they still had a lot of dexterity in their fingers, and they were really good craftsmen. And they made their own clothes, like not just like loincloths and stuff, but like skin tight clothes, things that fit the body. And they were excellent with working with hides. And according to this book, they also had means of decoration, and they would make their own bags, and they would find something shiny or pretty, like a shell or a rock or something, and pick it up and carry it with them wherever they went. They were very nomadic. But they were attracted to things that they found beautiful and aesthetically pleasing, and they actually had pigments that they would put on the clothes or the shells they picked up and have jewelry. They were adorning themselves. And for me, like, because I'm also interested in makeup and clothes and all that, I don't know, it just seems so relatable and so humanizing, even though these people lived like thousands and thousands of years ago. But they have a ton of more information on that, not just like aesthetic stuff, but they were talking about like how we can tell that they raise children, or like their diet, right? Whether they're hunting big game or small game, how flexible they were. And she actually has her own hypothesis, kind of vaguely, about like why we won out as Homo sapiens. And it's not the kind of answer you would think. Cause like, the normal answer is that like, oh, we're smarter, right? But that's not entirely true. I don't want to spoil it for you, so I'll let you read this book and find out what her hypothesis is. But yeah, it was just kind of beautiful. She talks about how they view death, or how what we can infer based on what was left behind and the bones that were left behind of how they might have viewed death or might have taken care of death. There was a lot of corpses that were actually found in a side sleeping position, like they were placed there, which is beautiful to me. And a lot of other stuff too. So yes, this book made me really feel connected to my ancestors. Every chapter starts out, well, not my ancestors, they're Neanderthals, but you know what I'm saying? Connected to my distant cousins. Okay. But it just, I don't know, really if your goal is to read something that's like a humanizing take on Neanderthals, this is really good. It's super informative. And if you're interested in science, anthropology, evolution, anything like that, recommend it. It's pretty good. So my last book, again, I don't mean to plug, but this is the last book that I'm currently reading for the month. That I started reading in February, and I'm currently still reading because I haven't gotten through it yet. I'm so sorry. But this is Horoscope. It's a horror anthology. I just posted a video about it because I'm actually in this book. I submitted a short story to this book. I'm under the cancer section because I too am a cancer, so I wrote a story about cancer. I'm sorry, my ring light keeps messing up the cover. But yeah, so I started reading everybody else's entries, and I'm in Gemini right now. I'm probably going to finish this week. I apologize because I've been working like crazy. I haven't gotten to this yet. And I just had two really big nonfiction things to get through. So, yes, I'm a little bit behind on horoscope, but I am getting through it. And so far, it's been a great read. I highly recommend it if you like scary stories and if you're into astrology. You will definitely like this too. I will also link it in my description if you want to pick this up. This dropped February 20th. So again, it's recent. It's in February. I started this in February. I will probably finish it in March. So this will be in the March video too, spoiler, but I promise other books besides this one will also be in the March video. So yes. But yeah, so just wanted to shout out horoscope right there. Okay, that's everything I read for February. I can't believe we're in March already. Um, I'm so excited for spring. You guys have no idea. I'm so over winter. I even have like a butterfly. I have like a butterfly hair clip in the back. I just want spring so badly. But I am thankful for February. I'm thankful for everything February brought me. I really hope that you like these reading picks, and let me know what you read for the month of February down in the comments below. If you have any book recommendations you think I'd like. I definitely had my fill of nonfiction for the month. So I do have two fiction books I'm currently reading. One is another horror story written by people I know on Instagram that I'm getting through, and then I picked up a post-apocalyptic murder mystery book, which seems really interesting. So those two will definitely be in my March not even book reviews. I don't know. My next what I read video will definitely have those two in them as well. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And until next time, thanks. Bye.